I started off by speaking of readers and reader critics, and I'd like to emphasize that point once again. I tell my students in a course where we reread texts that they have already read perhaps more than once from elementary, middle school, through high school and into university, that the point or the purpose of a classical text is that it can be read more than once. And we as classicists are patient of rereading. We appreciate rereading. We need to luxuriate in that possibility of that reading means there will be a rereading. When I spoke about the process of examinatio, and I felt concern that editors had not perhaps taken enough time with the rereading stage, I am deadly serious because I think we are in something of a crisis in the modern period of textual criticism, where there is too little patience with what are perceived as trivia in manuscript traditions. We are at a crisis because unless we can induce new reader critics to find the same kind of joy and enthusiasm for the patient work of textual criticism, we will in fact be leaving behind a fossilized series of texts which are inadequate in themselves, and worse, they are unworthy of the great authors for whom we have such respect as the originators. It is unfair to a Horace or a Cicero or a Terentius Varro. It is unfair to a Lucan or a Tacitus to leave them with a perplexing and uncertain text without at least reminding ourselves, and in a distant way them, that we are reading them anew, each generation, with the care that they deserve. We may be wrong in our suggestions for corrections. We may think that we should remove an anomaly of their style when anomaly is exactly what they were aiming at. But the risk of simply leaving without discussion, of saying this is what it is, take it or leave it, or this is what it is, we don't need more than a Band-Aid for a patch. This is a greater risk, and it fossilizes, it stagnatizes, and it brings us to a kind of doleful end of any vibrancy and any real engagement and joy in our use of the library. It can't be allowed to do this precisely because we are at a stage where technology is now able to open up new means of conversation and new ways that reader editors and reader critics can come together over time, but also in the same time period by collaboration and by sharing collaboratively the different kinds of enjoyable work that all of them engage in. One practical point that crops up sometimes in, well, it crops up very often in undergraduate, even graduate seminars. When you are reading a text, you come across a word or a line where there is a cross, a crooks. And students, myself included, say, oh dear, is this a line that I can simply skip because nobody knows what it says anyway? That's one way of approaching it. That's the same mentality that allows you to skip a word that you don't know in Latin or in English, rather than going to the dictionary and looking it up. And we can get away with that for quite a long time in our lives. We might even get along without looking up things that we don't know for a very long time. That's not necessarily good. The crux, as it stands, is the editor's signal, an unavoidable signal in the text itself that there is an unsolved problem. Many editions do not have very many cruces, and there are probably psychological reasons for that. If an editor admits that she has not been able to find a solution, or that no one else has been able to find a solution that she's willing to accept, then somehow she has failed as an editor. That need not be the case, but it is a hard step to overcome. If one, however, puts a crux at every point where there is a serious uncertainty, then there will be cruces all over the page. I'm reminded of a review written by Hausmann, who mentions that in the case of Latin poets who are capable of much, and of copyists, scribes, manuscript scribes who are capable of anything, a prudent editor, he says, will cautiously not accept anything, and will with equal caution will emend with care. And his page, says Hausmann, will bristle with the obelisks. He will have cruces all over the page. That is a worse distraction in some ways than a help. We need to find a middle ground. We have generally found a middle ground. But it is still important that there be ways that even the most casual of serious readers is made aware again and again and again that what we have on the page in front of us is not sure. Here is science again. It is as close as we can come. And then we allow ourselves the hypothesis. We allow ourselves the leap, the risk. And that can only be taken on the part of a responsible editor if one can be sure that there is a responsible readership that will respond to it in the appropriate way. So scholarship is a conversation amongst present-day proponents, amongst those who have gone before, and for those who will come after. This is also a signal that nothing in the texts from antiquity that we admire and revere so much, nothing is absolutely certain. We wish we could call up Virgil or Lucan or Cicero, ask them for a performance, and have a video camera on hand to capture that. We cannot. The best we can do is to allow ourselves to think, to hope, to wonder. And by wondering, there is plenty of evidence that we find sometimes things which don't answer the immediate question, but which add to our knowledge elsewhere. The fact that we still engage, any of us, with ancient texts from the ancient world is phenomenal in its own right. We are hundreds, thousands of years beyond the date of the authors. The works are still valuable. They still command our respect for what they say. They are still exciting to students and to ourselves. This is the kind of joy and excitement that needs to continue. Let us not get bogged down with trivia. Let us take instead the opportunities of technical advances. Let us engage in new and exciting conversations. Let us move forward to expand the joy and excitement in new and different ways.